Hi, this is Cora Stack here, Dr. Stack here. I just wanted to highlight a little bit about media spin. I've been around the place now, at the different crisscrossing around it at an alarmingly speedy rate. It's ridiculous, really, what's going on for the independents. That haven't got helicopters and multimillionaires or machines behind them. Or years of experience. We say knowing people in councils and things like that, and etc. Or a lot of legal connections, people like that. I have spent a lot of time actually trying to secure online deals for all of the media, all of the participants, on behalf of the independents, because I feel the sense of injustice that's been done to us, and the people that are winning aren't coming around. They're using the online slots, and they didn't negotiate any deal for me, and yet there's no word of thanks from them. So that's the way it is. These are the people that get on. The people that give nothing, and the people that give everything end up with nothing. So I'm not saying nothing, but it's the give the most. Get the least. The squeeze middle. That's just a typical. We give the most and we get the least in return. So that's I can see that even happening in the election. The squeeze middle. So what the media left out of my presidential nomination speech, I'm just going to talk about, I won't mention any particular media, we'll say the media over the last few days. So this is basically how the media reported my presidential nomination speech. Over and over again, my words were reduced to a few points that I would be, I think, a guardian of the Constitution and a voice for the vulnerable. That's the whole lot of my message. Important points, yes, but they represent only a fraction of what I said. The record has not been corrected, and that matters for democracy and also for my standards. I'm an editor of a journal. I have high standards, so sorry. Like this sort of mediocrity isn't good enough. So here's what I actually said, if I was to reduce it down. My speech was built on 4 pillars: peace, protection, people and principles. It mightn't even be mediocrity, it could be manipulation. It could be manipulation, minimising, which is gaslighting, to try and give the impression that your speech wasn't good enough, so that the outcome of the meeting was consistent with the speeches. See all this kind of ring kind of thing going on? I'm not saying it happens, but it's the perception is that it's all spinning around together. And I did hear that the media can often be afraid of politicians, so that you call it a false narrative, wouldn't you? Call it a manipulated false narrative, and I'm all about the sociopathy. So I'm seeing it all around, and I'm not the only one seeing it. I'm glad that a few other people in our group seeing it. Yeah. I committed. So here's what I said. My speech was built on 4 pillars: peace, protection, people and principles. Peace. I committed to upholding the Good Friday Agreement and promoting reconciliation, not mentioned. Protection. I pledged to champion children, carers, survivors and the vulnerable. The vulnerable was mentioned, that's all. People. I promised to celebrate entrepreneurs, workers, artists and rural communities, not mentioned. Principles. I vowed to call out greed, uphold unfairness and ensure progress leaves no one behind. This vision was erased from the headlines. The spin. Across media outlets, a pattern emerges. The same 1 or 2 lines are repeated almost like this, in the same way. The complexity of my message is stripped away. The presidency I described, a presidency of listening and action, was represented in a few sound bites. This is just not careless. In my opinion, it is deliberate minimisation. So you see, I'm all about this gaslighting, you see, so that's another way of putting it. Why does this matter? Because democracy depends on truth. Citizens deserve to hear what candidates actually say, the essence of what they say, not just a fragment. If media reduces speeches to sound bites, voters are denied the chance to make informed decisions. And when the record is not corrected, misrepresentation hardens into history. This isn't about me personally. It's about fairness, transparency and accountability in public life. So let me give you an example of misrepresentations. So let me show you clearly. I will be a voice for the vulnerable, a shield. What I said, a shield for the voiceless, and a safeguard for our democracy. The report out of this said a voice for the vulnerable. I said I will uphold the Good Friday Agreement and champion mediation and reconciliation at home and abroad. The report says nothing at all about peace. I said I will listen and act, ensuring no person is seen, no voice unheard. That was erased completely. This is how the narrative gets rewritten. The spin, the minimisation. Ours matter now, and the record remains uncorrected. No outlet has come back to acknowledge what was omitted in this sense, and no journalist has published the full scope of my speech in terms of what I would regard as proper representation. And so the public is left with a distorted version of my message, as though 2 points defined an entire vision. Reclaiming the narrative. That's why I'm making this video, to set the record straight, to put my full vision in front of you, unfiltered and uncut. A presidency that stands for peace, protection, people and principles. Now, I changed my speech because I was told that, you had to read it out of a... again, this was more manipulation, I think. You had to read it out, and this sort of thing, and every second person, so there was, as if the original speech wasn't good enough, or perhaps it was too good, that's the problem. They didn't want it to be as good, or it's given the impression that your speech wasn't good enough. So more and more of this narcissistic manipulation, allegedly. A presidency of dignity, fairness, and listening. Everything is very consistent in all of my my speeches. It's all consistent. It's the same message, just said in a different way. One that travels to towns and villages, celebrates every contribution, and ensures no one is left behind. Indeed, my students years ago said that about me, that I lifted everybody up and I left nobody behind. I always, gave the stronger students more challenges, but I always, lifted all boats. And another candidate, a lovely man, he's of the same kind of disposition as myself. So don't let others decide what I stand for. Hear it here in my own words. Unfortunately, I haven't gone out on LinkedIn at 5 o'clock every morning, advertising myself, and probably suffer as a result of it. But I just feel it's unethical to be using LinkedIn or Facebook to do a campaign. So I'm probably, and I don't have a big, amount of handlers, as you can see. Share this message and let's keep the record true. Always with dignity, always respect, always for the common good. So all my message is entirely consistent, except I've expressed it in different ways. It's the same point over and over again. So what's very sad for me is it that the media are afraid to go against the councils and the way they're voting, or are they all kind of in it together, or what's the story? It's most concerning. It really is. It really is very concerning. Are the media, are they all in cahoots with the politicians, or are they in fear of speaking out, and then they minimise your contribution so that it appears like you didn't really do well in your speech, this sort of thing, instead of telling the truth. So I am, at my YouTube station, I have never done that to anyone. Somebody has come, if the language is inappropriate, I've said to people, no, I can't accept that, but if they come back with a different way of saying it, in a respectful way, I'll accept it. And people have done that. They behaved themselves, and I haven't had any issue. And they come in with very different views, but it's within the limit of what I'll accept. It's freedom of speech. And I certainly don't, reduce it down or tell them to cut it out or anything. No, I don't. I mean, it would want to be, so I'm and they're very well behaved. The people that are on my page are very well behaved, even though some of them are for Miss Catherine Connolly, others are for Conor McGregor, and a few others, Mary Stein, what I've given her an awful lot of opportunities to do online linked online speeches, and I've got all the deals, and I've heard that she's got more time than I've got and others, and not a word of thanks from Irish Jean or others that are getting ahead of the rest of us. So I'm doing all the work, and they're getting all the benefit. So that's how it works in Irish life. We've got to change the system. We really got to change the people. We've got to get different, better leaders. I've said that time and time again. We need better leaders. And leaders are people who lift everybody up, not keep everything for themselves so that they get ahead that way. That is mediocrity rather than meritocracy. So I am, I am upset at the, and it wasn't just in this, it was in another county as well. And I won't go into the same minimisation and the same sort of, staging. It was like staging and absolutely disgraceful stuff because, we've got to get this out. We're turning into like a communist state. And unless we vote better leaders, people who will allow people to have free speech and allow diversity, in terms of opinions, and that the media aren't afraid of saying things that are different to what is expected of them from the government. I mean, sure, that's like, a communist state. That's not good enough at all. So there's my viewpoints. And if any of those editors want to get back to me and correct the records, that's fine. And another media outlet said I was a medical doctor and I was an expert in public health, and I also corrected that record, and that record hasn't been changed. And that refers to, a sibling that's a medical doctor, and she's excellent in public health. She is excellent in aviation medicine and things like that. She's absolutely excellent, but she's not me. And they got the wrong person. And is that who they're going to vote on? The CV of a different person. I mean, they haven't corrected the record yet, and we're only days from the nominations. Sure, it's and I'm up all night here doing all this, burning the midnight candle oil, killing myself working, editing, and thinking how am I going to respond to this, and everybody's going home at 5 o'clock. I mean, I just think, well, that's the way it is. That's the way it is. The ones who give the most get the least in return, and that's why I'm standing to stand up for those people.